about 800 delegates, between 800 and 1,000 delegates, depending on the size of the state, will vote for a PDP gubernatorial candidate. Whereas in the APC, it's usually between 5,000 and 15,000 delegates, because we are doing all executive members as delegates. So that gave them a head start over the PDP, because someone that was voted for by 15,000 people or 10,000 or 7,000 will naturally have had more support base out there than someone that was voted for by just 800 people, mostly selected by the governor himself. So what am I saying? Allow parties to decide how they want to, but as long as it's written in their rule books. So as a member, if you are going to join a political party, you already know the rules of this party. And if you are going to subject yourself to that, to the rules of the party, no problem. Consensus in this nature, the way it is being done in Nigeria today, is not workable in the distance of the world. It's nothing but a form of domination and imposition. Because you can't really have people cannot just decide to submit to one person for whatever reason. No. It's a very difficult thing to achieve. Very difficult. That's why I said consensus can only be achieved in very extreme cases. So you have a very extraordinary aspirant that all of that want to say, if this person, we are all willing to support the person to go. And they would have found that consensus decision, people would have to vote and say, okay, we voted for him alone. He stood alone and voted alone. That is the real consensus. So everything must boil down to voting as long as it's a political party decision. Because of the ethics of internal democracy, people must come out and affirm that consensus choice. So, though I said in the first instance, there was no need to make consensus a separate or a standalone kind of method. No. Even when we agree, if we are not members of a political party, I will decide to say, okay, we want to send somebody to the National Assembly, we still have to vote. The only thing is that the person will start unopposed and emerge returned, unopposed. That is now a signature and a formation of the consensus choice of that aspirant. But consensus in this sense, where you couple to sit there and say, step down for one person, and let the person go and buy from it, that's not consensus. That's a position.
We're getting reports of that playing out even in the ruling party itself. A report came out over the weekend, about consensus crisis in APC, and it would seem that what is happening across a lot of the local chapters where they're failing to reach agreement is that this matter of governors taking advantage of the party to endorse their preferred aspirants, and so even in the events where they are able to manipulate, what's the word, impose their preferred candidates, and it's not just happening in the APC, in some other parties as well. There's some resistance to consensus matters. What do you think that means largely for us as a democracy? Because it is not just the party members. I mean, it starts from there. What the Nigerians have as options to vote for when they go to the polls is what emerges from this party primary. So even if the party at the party primaries, party members themselves are feeling disenfranchised, are feeling like they are at best going to withdraw from it just so that they are not seen to be going up against the leadership of the party. What does that say about our democracy? I'm curious. What do you think?
That's not democracy, though. I've always said it, that what party in Nigeria lacks basic ingredients of democratic culture. And the political party system in Nigeria has become the weakest link in our democratic value chain. I've always made this point. So I'm not even surprised, really, that both the ruling party and the opposition parties are not really getting their acts together. It's just that sometimes I like to put this pressure more on the opposition parties, because you know why? The ruling parties have what it takes to somehow manage through this process. You have the carrot, you have the stick to beat the mouse into line, somehow. But for opposition parties that want to take over from the ruling party, they must come out clean and be shining examples of internal democracy at its best. No interest, no attempt to deploy electoral subterfuge to install stooges in the name of structures. Simply allow members to decide who they want. And this direct primary for me, is a blessing for the opposition parties that they must take advantage of now. It's a huge blessing. Before now, Nigerians were used to mostly indirect.
Yes.
But it was the CPC under Buhari started the direct primary arrangement. And that was why the CPC swept most part of their struggle like wildfire in those days. Because it was it endeared the party to the grassroots. The APC adopted it here and there in between 2015 and 2019, and somehow they didn't quite do it well, but they tried to, but I'm saying parties that are coming up that want to challenge the ruling party must do this well. And it begins with a credible membership register. For me, I would recommend some of these new parties that are coming up now as mainstream opposition parties. Let them get the best people possible from Nigerian diaspora. Those that are members of the Conservative Party in the UK, those that are members of the Labour Party in the US, or the Democratic Party. Let them get very serious-minded and capable hands from some of these jurisdictions to come into these young parties and help develop the directorate of organizing among these parties, such that they can bring them. It's like trying to mentor them and standardize the internal processes and make them have credible membership register that is foolproof, where members can just file out in their various localities and file behind aspirants, and they'll be counted, head count, and just enter without any fuse. That is something the opposition parties must do now. If they do that, it will give them an edge. Because each time we bring out these ideas, we're trying to make our democracy better. So we're trying to say, look, it's your own advantage to do the right thing. It will give you an edge in the sense that you dig in more into the people power base of the electorate. Because with what's happening in the ruling party, the discontrol people in the ruling party will not find succor in some other parties where there is a level playing ground. So you that want to take over, you must be the one that must be saintly. You must be the one that must be pious and righteous. Like I keep saying, it's like trying to woo somebody. If I'm in an abusive relationship and somebody is trying to woo me to come to leave where I am to come to another relationship, I'll be a bit skeptical because I want to see that you are truly different from this person that I am with now. Especially when I've been abused over and over and over by several lovers. I'll be very careful. I mean, since 1999, I've been abused, I've been tortured, I've been vandalized, I've been emotionally scandalized, and somebody just wants to come and just win by the word of mouth. Now, I want to watch him. I want to watch him or her to know whether indeed this person is different. So it is that the onus is on you to really appear very different to me, so as to make it, motivated enough to live here and follow you. But if you do not go extra mile to convince me, I would rather say, look, let me stick with what I already know. Since I've changed hands over 4 times now and I'm still in the same condition, who knows whether this fifth person will also do the same thing to me?
Okay.
What am I saying in essence? Opposition parties have a duty to even do more than, because the parties are already in power. They can use power of incumbency. They can use some of the advantages available to them as government to find a way back to power. But you need people power. And to get people power, you must appear to be above board like Caesar's wife.
All
you
right.
Appear to be that promised, that Messiah that will take us to the promised land.
All right, Dr. Majid. Let's take a quick beat, get a word from some of our patrons, and then we'll come back.
Uja, are you listening?
Station 95.1 Nigeria Info. My name is Somi, and we've got Tech Team Lead Luxterra, Dr. Majid Dahiru, also a columnist, here with us for our Wednesday tonic. I think it used to be Sunday tonic back in the days on TV. Yeah, we've got our tonic midweek here with Dr. Majid Dahiru, and we started off our conversations looking at what's unraveling across different parties, especially as it has to do with consensus candidacy. Well, history, if we were to go back a little bit in time to 1999 when we started this democratic dispensation, apparently consensus has hardly worked. Most arrangements either in favor of zoning or candidates have been contested by party members. In 2003, even as president, Olusegun Obasanjo had to submit himself to the process of primaries when other aspirants like Abubakar Rimi and Barnabas Gemade, amongst others, could not agree on automatic tickets, choosing to slug it out with him. Obasanjo, however, succeeded in anointing Umaru Yar'Adua to succeed him in what, though contested, appeared more like a consensus. In 2015, due to uncertainty over whether allowing Jonathan as the sole candidate will pull through, the ruling party, the PDP at the time, toyed with the idea of printing only one form. And in 2023, the announcement of then Senate President Ahmed Lawan as the preferred candidate of the APC could not sail through, as other aspirants did not submit to the party and contested in the primary that threw up Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the APC candidate. However, people arguing for consensus and trying to push it would say it prevents bloody primaries that leave the party divided. It avoids massive financial drain of organizing nationwide or statewide direct primaries, which the 2026 Electoral Act has put as a fallback if consensus does not work. Some would also say it allows the party to put forward its most sellable face without the risk of a loose cannon winning a popular vote. And Dr. Majid has been helping us break down the opportunities and pitfalls, if any, of the consensus candidacy. All right, we're going to open up the phone lines right away in case you want to get a word or a thought in based on what's happening across the states, across various parties as it concerns consensus candidacy. Would you rather that, and why? Let us know. The Electoral Act says if it fails, then parties are supposed to do direct primaries. But we've seen how politics plays out in the country. We've seen the influence some of the big wigs in these parties have. And so they would try as much as possible, if possible, tooth and nail, to get consensus candidacy out of the way. But would you rather that or direct primaries? Dr. Majid has said, and I know a lot of us are pushed for it prior to this 2026 Electoral Act, that direct primaries was more the way to go. Which would you rather for our democracy and for you as a voter and for your voice to be heard? 0809-597-4869. And on WhatsApp, it's 009-993-0137. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Ubulu. I'm calling you from Karusait. I live in Karusait. I just prefer to use that identity.
All right, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so consensus candidacy. What? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I mean politics. For me, I'm listening to the person in the studio. I think his name is Dr. Majid, and he was saying something about calling people from the diaspora to come back and help with the situation. And I mean, I don't use bad, but I mean that's a laughable idea because I saw a post today. People were talking about how people be like, can this man be the savior? Basically talking about the character problem that Nigeria is a mess in terms of character, meaning that what we need is something like a religious revolution, because the problem is the people are outrightly messed up. So I would just say that, and that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure. Was there a question there? I didn't get it if there was. Hello? Good afternoon.
My name is Mandela from Ghana.
Welcome, Mr. Victor. Go ahead.
As a matter of fact, consensus is undemocratic.
Did you say undemocratic?
Yes, it's on that because any system that does not allow everything that for political actor to me is democratic.
Dr. Adiola, Mr. Adiola
why
Victor,
we
there's
have
something wrong with your network. There's something wrong with your network.
Hello.
Please call back. Please call back. Something about your network. That's why from the first word I wasn't sure what you said. Please do call back. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, my name is CJ. To me, direct primary is the best. Concerning this thing is undemocracy. It's anti-people. It's anti-democracy. To me, direct primary is the way to go because everybody will come out to contest. Sometimes you win the election, we tap the experience from your contestants from the primary. Then this consensus is just anointing person. You will make crisis. Not the only in party, even in the whole state or in the whole country. Because you will not see another people's ideology. You will not see how other people have what they offer to the party or to the Nigeria general. So to me, this system of consensus by negotiation is very bad. It's bad. It's bad. Honestly, it will do Nigeria harm than good to me. Thank you.
All right, then. Let's take 2 more calls and then we'll go back to the next story. Yes, that one you can tell, Mr. Adiola, that your network is the problem. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Edward.
Go ahead.
You see, the issue of this consensus arrangement, I don't know where we are contesting whether it's democratic or not. We all here when the so-called National Assembly approved it in the constitutional review and allowed it, and we allowed them to allow it. So why are we crying now? Something can be democratic, but it's still not fair. Consensus arrangement is not fair. Though it's democratic, but what makes democratic is that it's already in the constitution, so it can be accepted. But then, is it fair to Nigeria and the Nigerian nation? That's another matter of its own.
Well, that's the conversation that we're actually having. So what are your thoughts on that? As a voter, what does it do for you, consensus candidacy?
Because it limits my choice. Limits my choice, obviously. But if you choose somebody who is not a good candidate, and I don't have any option than to vote, and if you have 3 or 4 men who are not good, how are you going to do? I'm going to vote for one of them. If you can't run away from it. And I'm sure these players all that fight with me, I'll be here to watch them when they will start to cry, because most of them are going to be caught in the trap of what they did for themselves. So that's what I have to tell you, my dear. Thanks.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Let's get into the second story. Of course, you know the phone lines will be opening up afterwards. A recent report has come out. It's called the State of Democratic Performance in Nigeria report. It was released by Kimpact Development Initiative, and it's providing very sobering data, really, on the conversations that we're about to get into right now. According to this report, while federal politics gets the spotlight, the real democratic recession is happening at the state level. That is what we're seeing in this report. 9 in 10 states run democracy with weak institutions. That's the summary of this report. Apparently, what exists in many states is not democratic. What exists in many states is not democratic absence, but uneven functionality. According to the report, you're having institutions, elections, and participation happening, but they are not producing transparency, inclusion, or protected civil freedoms. A major finding showed that local government democracy remains particularly fragile. Although all 36 states have legal frameworks for local government elections, 10 states, including Kano, Katsina, Kogi, Lagos, Nasarawa, and Yobe, do not make those laws publicly accessible, limiting citizen participation and weakening trust. The report also revealed that nearly 1/3 of political parties are effectively excluded, inactive, or unwilling to participate in grassroots elections, despite Nigeria's formal multi-party structure. Across states, average party presence stands at 18, but operational participation is significantly lower, reinforcing one-party dominance even at local levels. On inclusion, the findings paint a troubling picture. for women, youth, and persons with disabilities, of course, the more vulnerable groups in the society, as women representation at even commissioner level appointments averages 15.67% nationwide, far below the 35% affirmative benchmark, while 20 states have women's representation lower than 15%. As far as the women statistics, it's even better than that of the far better than that of the judiciary. We are having very troubling statistics coming out of there as well. But electoral participation trends also reveal declining voter enthusiasm. Across multiple states, governorship turnout dropped significantly between 2019 and 2023, despite high PVC collection rates, suggesting that logistical barriers are not the problem, but it is a question of trust, institutional credibility, and civic confidence being eroded. The report also added that Nigeria's democratic challenge is no longer simply about conducting elections, but about ensuring that institutions are transparent, inclusive, and responsive. I thought that this was a rather timely report, seeing as we're heading straight to 2027. And, over time, we're having conversations about what we should be, what our how should I put it, how we should be shaping up going into the elections. And then you're having conversations come out, the reports like this come out to show that perhaps as the civic, at the civic end and at the lower levels outside of the presidency, perhaps we're not paying as much attention to those areas, and we may not even get it right at the top if we don't work on these areas. Dr. Majid, what would you say to these reports? We are running practically across all 36 states, almost all 36, 9 in 10 states really, is a very, very sobering report. And we're talking about weak institutions across these states. How do we fix this? So that it is not that, we are praying amiss or we are working amiss. We're looking at only one side of the conversation and we're missing out on the others. Or do you think that this report doesn't add up really when it comes to 2027? I'd like to hear from you, sir.
This is not about 2027. This is about the Nigerian state. There's nothing in this report that comes to me as a surprise. These are the things I have been talking about on the show forever. The problem with this report is that it does not identify the reason for this problem. And that's the problem with some of these reports we keep discussing in the public. The reason for this problem is simple. Any country configured the way Nigeria is configured will necessarily have the problem just enumerated. And that's why I have been talking about reconfiguring this country and its political system. Any country, any entity, any sovereign entity in the world where identity politics drives the democratic process, this is the result you're going to have. The 36 states of the Federation, along with the over 700 local government areas, 174 specifically,
yep,
and the over 109 senatorial districts, the 360 House of Reps constituencies and all that, are largely delineated along ethnogeographic fault lines. So, Nigeria's democracy, unfortunately, is firmly hinged on the identity of these ethnogeographic and religious fault lines. So these various sub-national entities are like ethno-religious and geographic fiefdoms that do not have accountability to anybody. And most of us as Nigerians are guilty of this problem because we come to Abuja, we speak all the English, criticize government, but when we retreat to our localities, we comply, we conform, and we enable the same system because of our ethnic, religious, and regional idiosyncrasies. That's what I've been saying, that we need a political party that can correct this. It's a political problem. It's not a constitutional one. It's not a structural one. It's a political problem. Look, the law cannot operate itself. Structures cannot operate themselves. You need the human factor. That's where politics comes in to operate it. Now, let me tell you how a typical Nigerian political party is wrong. Now, as you and I, we are in Abuja, we live in Abuja, we pay our taxes in Abuja, we are Abuja residents essentially. Meaning ordinarily, our concern in politics should be how is our joint environment run? The security situation, environmental issues, the economic issues such as taxation, healthcare, access to education, right? You pay your pay here, I pay mine here. Now, the population is adjustment area councils and the administration. So, ordinarily, you and I are concerned about who acts as Ahmad Chaban, than who is the governor of your Edo state of origin or by state of origin. But unfortunately, there is no political party that is mobilizing Nigerians around this move, this paradigm. They don't election to me, any of these political parties or any of them, you'll be asked to go back to your ward, not even your village of origin to go and register.
Mobilize.
Of a political party. You will now leave Abuja and dash down to the village. When you get there, the issues of concern to them is not developmental issues per se. No. It's contested by various communities, subgroups at that level. So your psyche is already changed. I come in the picture one room and tell you, for 100 years, you're not allowed to do council this and that. Now that you have come with money from Abuja, thank you, you're welcome, blah, 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 blah. Before you know, something have metamorphosis. You complete at that level. And because there are too many contending factors at the various stages of to make sure what of challenging situation. That's what I think politics does for us. It's no longer about service. Because each of the offices, governor, senator, house of rep, comes with some perks, some financial, accompaniment. So what we'll have to look for is who controls those resources and for whose benefit. Not who's going to serve the public by making use of those resources. It's not about service, it's about control. Now, to fix the problem at the subnational level, we'll be for a new political movement in this country that I've been talking about for a long time. They can flip this around and begin to mobilize Nigeria to participate in politics around their places of residence, taking into cognizance their economic interest, legitimate economic interest. So, for instance, you and I are media practitioners and we live in Abuja. Our concern at any time should be whose policies or program is going to enhance our media practice. And my tax that I'm paying, how is it going to be utilized? I want to see the accountability that comes with it. That's all. Let the mechanic, let the shoemaker, let the farmer that reside in my village, whether they are Igbo, Yoruba, or Hausa, be similarly organized around their common economic interests and how to manage the resources that is coming there to enhance it. Now, under the circumstance, if the best man with the highest level of integrity that will not mismanage resources in my village happens to be an Yoruba man from Delta originally, but who resides there? Let that person be a trusted responsibility to manage resources against my own brother, against myself. If I don't have the integrity he's going to have. We need to have a political party system that can govern us along this direction. Similarly in Abuja, the same thing. Look, I live in an estate, for instance. Most of us live in gated communities. I have always rejected responsibilities in my estate. You know why?
Why?
I can't do it.
Why?
I know my strengths and my weaknesses. I can't be a state chairman. Why? Because here is egalitarian, we're all equal. I can't steal money. But if there was some advantages to be chairman, other than working, I will contest for it and occupy it. And I would speak language to my tribesmen in the estate to support one of their own to occupy that office. But in my estate, it is selfless. So one of my neighbors used to be our chairman. At night, when I'm sleeping, he's not sleeping. He's going around. He's checking the gate. He's checking the fence. It is his passion. Some people are created like that. Their passion to serve. He's always the first to pay facility fee. He's the first to do it. I didn't get 1 naira from it. So after about 2 or 3 or 4 years, he became tired and naturally handed over to somebody else who has continued and sustained the same tempo. But guess what? We have a financial officer. Our financial, how do you call it, FinSec. Each time this lady gives us account of our monies, we used to ask, so we have this much money. We didn't know now. That is one naira will not miss. She uses her data, her own money, to kind of run the account. And she does it with all the passion available. Do you know that nobody has ever asked her to leave that position? Well, we're not contested for it. Nobody is interested because she's doing it too well. She's a Christian, I'm a Muslim. She's on the south, I'm a northerner. But I'll tell you that rather than me having my in that position, I'll have her in that position. One naira of her money has not been missing for 4 years now. Because it's a passion to do that. My own role is to host meetings in my house. So, but when there is a meeting in the estate, I can host meetings very well. I'll provide generously for them. That's my own role. That's my own calling. What am I saying? To be governor, to be senator, it's supposed to be public service in the way my estate chairman and secretary is serving us, selflessly. It should be a passion. I want to serve. If you want to make money, don't go to politics, go to business. Go and be doing buying and selling, manufacturing, stockbroking. But if you want to serve, maybe it's your passion. You can't stay without serving others. You go to politics. But there must be a configuration of our politics to accommodate this kind of paradigm. Otherwise, our politics show that it is identity-based and patronage is the only reward system. All identity-based process, rule of law is always undermined. The constitution is turned on its head. Impunity reigns because it's almost like a jungle situation. I've always told that tribalism and all forms of isms along primordial sentiments is a subhuman characteristic that is near animalistic in nature. How about this? Anyone can look at you, Somi, and does not see the broadcaster in you, and does not see the qualities in you to relate with you as a fellow human being, but they see your ethnicity first. He's not thinking at a human level.
Dr. Majid, I have to ask at this point, because this report basically is scoring low. It is having the lowest scores come out when it comes to civil liberties and participation and institutional effectiveness. So I get what you're saying about, you've always talked about it. I've mastered the word prebendalism, because basically that is how, you get these kinds of systems and politics that always rewards along ethnic, tribal, and religious lines. I've mastered that word, but doesn't this speak more? Because when we're trying to resolve this issue, a lot of the time you recommend that it is the politicians that should commit class suicide. What does it call for the residents, the civilians, the citizens of this country to do if we were to put an end to this problem?
Come together. First, as Nigerian citizens, be always ready to sacrifice your ethnic and religious interest for the common interest. Until we are ready to do that, our potential will not change. They'll keep taking advantage of us. It's very easy to divide Nigerians. This one is Yoruba, this one is Hausa, this one is Igbo, don't vote for him. Before you know, we all go mad. Even the most educated among us become crazy during elections. Very easy. Until we're able to build a resistance to this, and refuse to be divided along tribal lines. Until we do that as the people, which cannot be complemented by the class that have already recommended for. And why class suicide? What we are running is no longer sustainable. What we are running there took Rwanda into a genocide after a civil war. And to correct the problem, what did Kagame do? He banned tribalism in this country. In Rwanda, you can't identify as any tribal. It's a crime. It's a state crime. If you ask somebody their tribe in Rwanda, you go to prison. Have you observed that Ghana, I don't know if you've ever visited Ghana before, Ghana is a more stable democracy than Nigeria, where elections are more efficient, where elections are more credible, where elections are more issues-based. You know why? In Ghana, thanks to Jerry Rawlings, Ghanaians have largely overcome their primordial identities of Ewe, of Akan, whatever ethnic group they belong to. They have largely overcome it and have adopted the Ghanaian identity. Look, I go to Ghana a lot. Nigeria, you have to ask your tribe, is something we love so much. If you ask a Ghanaian, their tribe, they feel very reluctant to talk about it. They feel embarrassed. And every Ghanaian identifies as a Ghanaian. If push comes to shove, they'll tell you the region they come from, and from Upper Volta, and from this and from that. When you ask their tribe, you see that reluctance to mention it. Therefore, Ghanaians have largely accepted their Ghanaian identity. That's why they vote largely along party lines. Ghanaians are divided along partisan lines sharply, very sharply along partisan lines. That's why it was possible, for instance. You see, Ghana is a majority Christian country, right? But if you go to Ghana, their Muslim population are not marginalized. No. Because the system takes of everybody equally. Then their vice president under the last government was a Muslim from the northern part of Ghana. He was supported by the ruling party that he served in to become candidate in a country where religiously is a minority. I was not the president, if not that he was defeated by John Mahama, who didn't come in based on religious sentiment. No, it was based on party ideology. If you look at Ghana, they argue so much about tax management between the two parties. It's not issues based.
Yeah.
Because they have relegated other things to the background. So that guy would have become a Muslim, would have been a Muslim president as a minority in Ghana, a majority non-Muslim country, by democratic exercise. And it's not too late. There's a likelihood, if you follow Ghanaian tradition, that as vice president of the last government or the power, he's likely to be the leader of the party now that might run again against the candidate of this ruling party now in the next election. And the Ghanaians feel that Mahama didn't do well and they need to change the party. The party guy will win the election based on the party affiliation and the party ideology. But to achieve this, you must overcome identity politics first.
Right.
No country has ever tried identity politics. None. It's not possible. That's why when Trump came in with some level of white supremacist tendencies, Americans were worried. Americans became worried that Trump is digging into identity politics by scaremongering and trying to mobilize the white population. Americans were worried, including white people, because they know the danger to that. Because from white, it will become, okay, among the whites, who is German by origin, who is Irish by origin, who is British. It starts from there. But you go to Germans now, who is from Eastern Germany before you know, it splits down the middle. That's why in Nigeria, identity starts from the super three, Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, and splits down the middle to the last village in Igbo land, Yoruba land, and the Hausa land. Down to the last village. Yes, it's like onion. The more you open, the more you unwrap, the more it becomes theory for you. So we need to change, and it's only a political party that can change it. It will start slowly, It won't start, overnight. No. How it is done is this. When they just agree that we need to change our mindset and come together under a political party that similarly has the ethos and has the discipline and the ideals of what to do, but then you win one state or one government, and you now demonstrate consider fidelity enough with that state to yield prosperity, to yield welfare and security. Gradually, other people will drop their bad ways to follow yours. So my worry is that we've not started this journey at all. We've started this journey,
All right, sir. We need to take a quick commercial. We'll come back and talk a little bit more. We've still got one more story to go. We've got tons of messages. We'll read all of them in a little while. Stay with us.
At Stella Maris Primary School, we do not only encourage our kids to dream of success, we teach them to get up every morning and make it happen. With over 25 years of Stella educational magic, qualified and dedicated staff, conducive and serene environments spread across Abuja, you can be sure that quality education is at your doorstep. So what are you waiting for? Make learning fun and exciting for your little ones today. For more inquiries, call 0809 037 3727 or check us online at www.smsabuja.com.
My friend, we are textile look that your ceiling con raising am. If you no like am, then no be we make am. For Eminent Limited, our ceiling they last and it define scatter. Our calci seal or calci craft ceiling products, your mind go coolele. Unto say if you use our product for your house, office or religious buildings, our calci seal and calci craft ceiling products, we dey for plain and pattern. They last well. If they block heat plus noise from to the entire house, our products no they catch fire. Charger or you carry your phone, ring a number for Eminent on 0700 3839 644. Or waka enter any of our distributor shop we did close to you, or download the Eminent app on Google Play Store or iOS. Our office in call the number 7 Old Abakaliki Road, Enugu. Eminent Limited, we tender for anywhere people they build. We be EDEX company.
Welcome back to your number one talk, news, and sports station. This is Nigeria Info. Audio Jungle.
Welcome back. It's still your number one talk station, 95.1 Nigeria Info. 2 stories down on our time with Dr. Majid Dahiru this afternoon. And let's look at the final story, then we'll go back to the phone lines. I see some of your messages. I'll get to them too in a little bit. All right. We've got our new coordinating Minister of the Economy and Minister of Finance reiterating the federal government's stance on market-driven economic reforms, talking about how we should just forget about any hopes of the subsidy being reintroduced. And also he spoke about the government not looking to impose price controls. He says we will not bring back subsidies and we will not introduce price controls because we believe in markets. At the same time, we will ensure that regulation is responsible so that no supplier, trader, or manufacturer takes advantage of the Nigerian people. He explained that the administration is focused on building a system where, of course, market forces determine prices, but within a framework that prevents abuse and promotes fairness. He said all of this while at the international forum. I think it was in France when he was making this comment. It was at that same avenue where he spoke about Nigeria moving to a $1 trillion economy, right? And also touting 11.2% GDP growth in dollar terms for 2025. And then the $1 trillion economy target was for 2030. Of course, Dr. Majid, you have spoken so much about a subsidy being a safety net, but you have our Minister of Finance here calling it an economic distortion. But I think of more interest to this conversation, if you will, is the fact that he talked about ensuring that there will not be what do they call it now? There would not be avenues for people to take advantage of the Nigerian people, even within this free market economy. And to me, the first question that came to mind, and which is what I want to ask you, will it be possible, really and truly? You have advocated for this time and time again. Oyedele is reinforcing the government's position on it. Will it be possible, really and truly, for them to allow for this market-driven economic reforms without putting in price controls? Is it possible that they would just allow it happen without protecting the Nigerians in any way? Because price control, to some extent, is a form of protection, I think, for Nigerian people. So it did seem like there was a bit of a contradiction there. I'm sure you have seen this report as well, but so I'd like to get your thoughts on it. They also spoke about ensuring that this market forces system that they're going to continue, in fact, put the pedal to the metal on, will happen within a framework that prevents abuse and promotes fairness. Do you think that they've been able to do that so far in the 3 years that we've had this administration? And do you think they'll be able to continue if you really think that they've been able to promote this prevention of abuse and promotion of fairness? Please talk to us.
Where was he speaking from, according to the report?
Say again?
Where was he speaking from, according to the reports?
He was in France.
In France?
Yes, sir.
The government has got a company called the EDF. It's a French company.
That's in France, yes?
In English, it's called Electricity of France.
Right.
It is owned by the French national government. It provided electricity for French people at a subsidized rate that the French government does not disclose to anybody for national security reasons. And when some of its shareholders decided to go to court to say their dividends were being eaten up by subsidies, the French government took them to court and got a favorable court judgment that allowed the government to buy off all those shares from those people so that they can sit down in their houses and stop telling government about subsidy on electricity. So the French government were wondering that, so this our visitor does not know what is called energy security, which is affordability of energy, as part of an integral, as an integral part of national security. So the people you are trying to impress are subsidizing energy to their citizens. Electricity is the most used source of energy in France, not petrol. Now, that which is most used in their country is heavily subsidized. Germany subsidizes energy. In 2023, Germany spent 80 billion euros subsidizing electricity and gas for homes and industries. When the price of energy rose in the UK, electricity and gas, the UK was to impose an energy price cap subsidy. Recently, the Strait of Hormuz crisis led to increase in price of fossil fuel-related energy, right? Japan had to impose a subsidy immediately. All oil-producing countries, including Iran itself, imposed a subsidy immediately. In fact, they call it a price freeze. That is, the increase should not affect the citizens. Government took the burden off. I still don't know who your people are copying. South Africa that does not produce oil, have removed some taxes from petrol pricing in order to bring relief to their citizens. But I don't blame Oyedele. No, I don't blame them at all. I don't blame Tinubu at all for his policies. These are the things they believe in. They campaigned with it after all, and they implemented it, right? Among all the political parties that want to remove Tinubu, are they waiting for Bajid Dahiri to challenge this statement and bring an alternative to what he has said? They're waiting for me to put on to say it. All of them want to contest to take back from Tinubu. What is their position on this matter? If it is the same with what Oyedele has said, then why are we disturbing ourselves? Campaigning for alternative candidates.
But sir, we're having this conversation because we're having this conversation, sir, because at this point, like you said, no other political party is taking it up, but we are feeling it. So
we're election fever season, and none of the candidates so far has been able, a few months to election, to now that they have reiterated this, one would have expected that in the next 24 hours. We should see counter positions from those who want to take out from them. If they are quiet about this and they don't criticize this and they support the free market economy as it pertains to energy, then we take it for granted that they agree with Tinubu then. So what are they going to do differently? Each time I challenge a protest to say, it's not enough to be going up and down. Tell what you want to do differently. Their own supporters will be attacking us. That it is too early. The Tinubu government is very comfortable in what they do because there's no challenge to their policies. There's no challenge to it from the right quarter. Now, we have seen that even America had to allow emergency lifting of sanctions on Iranian oil and Russian oil to bring down the price of petrol in its own country. America right now is in the Strait of Hormuz, trying to use all military might possible to free up that code to allow for the free flow of oil cargoes so that they can bring down the price of petrol at home. That is the kind of effort America is making because no government in the world that is reasonable, none, will allow market forces to dictate the price of energy. I'm not against free market enterprise. No, I've not been against it too. But two things I've always advocated for. In the free market enterprise, government should participate side by side in the private sector for the benefit of the people. Secondly, energy cannot, the price of energy, particularly when you utilize the most in your country, cannot be subjected to market forces at all times. The only time energy can be subjected, the price of energy can be subjected to the dictates of market forces, is when the factors of production of energy does not put the price, the market price of energy, above affordability threshold of citizens. Every country measures the affordability threshold of its citizens to know that, okay, if price of petrol goes beyond, say, 500 naira per liter, for a 70,000 naira minimum wage country, it will hurt. Therefore, they will put in place mechanisms to make sure that it doesn't go beyond. And when it's going to go beyond, they take off the extra cost to subsidies. By the time it's possible. Subsidy can be through tax waivers. It can be through the rest. That is government's responsibility, not mine. But one thing is sure, due to the vital nature of energy, which is key for economic productivity, I keep saying, energy to the economy is like air to the living thing. Without which we will all die. If we are suffocated today and have to pay for this air we are breathing, most of mankind will die off. That is what happens to an economy that pays too high for energy. It's a problem. You can't compete, you can't produce, you will be in a recessed kind of depression. That's how it is. And that's why the Nigerian economy is not doing well. Citizens are suffering. But the finance minister has insisted that this policy they are implementing is the right way to go. No problem. But there's no challenge to them from any of the arrivals and opposition contenders.
Dr. Majid,
that is the challenge today.
Dr. Majid, as much as we recognize that, I also want to get your thoughts on their position on price control. They're saying that they're not returning subsidies and there's not going to be price control. Would you say that while we're trying to, try and advocate for subsidies to be returned, would you say that there should be some measures of price control in place at the very least?
Prices without subsidy. Subsidy is an instrument which you use to control prices. So, for instance, if Dangote says the cost of refining 1 liter of petrol, which is profit markup is let's say 1,000 naira per liter, for example. Our government feels that 1,000 is too high for my citizens to bear. Therefore, that would say, okay, calculate the quantity you are supplying to the market. I will pay you 200 naira per liter on each 1,000, so you can sell for 800 naira. Just the way we can get that to sell for 800 naira. By paying 200 naira, subsidy. Okay, that would say, if I give you crude at, say, instead of $100 per barrel, if I give you at $80 per barrel, can you bring down the price to 800 naira? Yeah, yes, it can. Okay, therefore, let me sacrifice $200 per barrel for the welfare of my citizens, for the energy security of my citizens. Therefore, you give them petrol at $800 per liter. That's what they will give us. Simple. Now, Nigeria is even lucky that we have a refining facility. You know, I've already said this. Dangote is a private company. But the only advantage is harsh for Nigerians. It's simple. Because it is a production facility. You can easily track, measure, and control output as per what you want to subsidize. It's easier than when you are subsidizing importation. One of the major problems with subsidy regime of old was subsidizing importation. It's open-ended. It's fluid in nature. Sometimes you can't tell. But with the Dangote, with his trucks, with his network of marketing facilities, working with the Dangote and other refineries, one can actually track the consumption at home and adequately know what to offset as government. Yes. It's not advantage at all. And Dangote can give to us is the fact that you can use Dangote to subsidize petrol. Even if you have to import augments, you can measure, it can be measured. Now, until government is ready to subsidize Dangote as a producer, either through discounted sales of crude or outright payment for product delivery, you can't control this price. Dangote pays all the taxes that he needs to pay. He buys food at international market rates. You can't control this price. It's not possible. Price control comes with when you are ready to pay for that difference in price that you want controlled. That's the only way. So you can't avoid subsidy from price control. It's as simple as that. And this comment of the day cannot influence pricing in Nigeria. There is no regulation. Let me tell you the truth. Beyond quality control, in terms of pricing, regulation in Nigeria is useless. They cannot regulate pricing. It's not possible. They can't. You can't tell me how much to someone provide goods and services. You can't tell me. It's free market enterprise. Free market.
So what he's saying, so what the finance minister is saying about regulation being on ground so that no supplier, trader or manufacturer will take advantage of the Nigerian people, you're saying it's not possible, they can't do that?
It's absolute bunkum. How do you want to do that? If a producer goes, like that, it is buy crude at a rate that determines the output, why on earth are you going to now in any way get Dangote to say you should reduce his product? Maybe he's taking advantage of me. How? Did you give him any incentive? What was the investment in the facility? What you can do? So how does he want to do that? If, for instance, the crisis in the state of Hormuz gets worse than this, and the price of crude shoots up to 150 or 170, and price of petrol gets to 2,000 naira, how is he going to tell Dangote to? What are they going to do? They only added that as an addendum to make you feel good. The Christian legislature does not believe, and it's the right to hold that belief. It's like being a Muslim or a Christian. It's like being a Catholic or an Anglican or a Protestant. They hold it there that energy should be deregulated in terms of pricing and that there should be no safety net. I agree with them that they have a right to hold that belief. They think it is the right way. I differ in principle. And in the last 3 years, I just have seen the ravages, the disadvantages of being subjected to free market pricing templates of energy, particularly petrol, that is one of the major products we use as energy in energy utilization. We have seen the damage, we've seen it.
Right.
The inflation you are seeing, just name it, is a result of that, primarily. And I have said, I do not believe that price of energy should be deregulated. No. Yes, let me give you an analogy. You see, this government could have raised price of petrol from, let's say, the 200 naira they met it to 1,000 naira without removing subsidy. You know what I mean?
No. What do you mean?
That this government can say, look, we can't afford to pay subsidy on this scale. Therefore, let Nigerians pay directly for 1,000 naira per liter. But the principle of subsidy will still be there. Meaning, as a government, we can only afford to intervene if the price gets to 1,100 naira. begin to intervene. But if it is 1K, you should bear the brunt. We have increased your minimum wage to 70,000 naira. What you should have done for us is that when prices are now getting to 1,350 and they go up more, just yesterday there was an increase in price.
Yes, there was.
Aviation fuel has become a problem for airline operators. Those ones that used to support subsidy the mover are now asking for subsidy. So it's going around now. A government should have known that it can get to this point. Therefore, you set a benchmark to say, if you get to this emergency point, where there's a war in the Middle East that has created this artificial increase in prices, we have to intervene. It's a responsibility of government. Some can say, no, we can intervene at 500 naira. Some can say we can intervene at 800. Some can say, no, we intervene at even 200. It depends on your calculation and what you think is a priority.
Right.
What you cannot do is to remove subsidy completely as a principle in the next security management. You can't do that.
All right, Dr.
I think the PIA, for example, removed it. I meant the PIA to put it back. But like I said, a government can decide when to intervene. Let me give you another typical example. If you look at the UK now, I follow Kemi Badenoch a lot. Well, she's Yoruba, but she's British. So meaning that anything the white man can do, she can also do. So I'm not saying we do fundamentally as Yorubas, Igbo, Hausa, or black people. We're just not ready to learn and do the right thing. No, so Kemi is a conservative. And she's the leader of the Conservative Party in the UK. Kemi has said, I will cut taxes on businesses. She has been very frontal on that. And then they used to ask her, in cutting taxes, where do you intend to get the monies from that those taxes would have been used to do? She said, I will cut down on welfare. Do you get the point?
Yes, sir.
That is, I'll cut down on welfare expenses. And when I cut down, I will give you tax reliefs. I believe it's better to give you the relief than to collect from you and start taking care of some other people. That's her belief. But the Labour Party will tell you, no, we increase and sustain taxes to maintain welfare. So it depends on the side of the coin that you belong to, you vote accordingly, right? But one thing she didn't say was that she's going to cancel welfare. She didn't say so. She couldn't say so. Because welfare has become another responsibility of the state. Like in the US, Republicans usually reduce spending on social security, but they can never abolish social security. Democrats spend more on social security. But no Republican can ever scrap social security. Year in, year out, social security has become the largest component of the US budget, hovering between 18 to 20% every year. Because it has become something that has come to stay. It's coming out of the responsibility to take care of the vulnerable, the weak, and others in the society. But you can reduce the size, you can reduce the eligibility, you can reduce so many factors just to save costs from that. So a government that is far right as Tinubu wants to be, for instance, he shouldn't have no subsidy completely, but he can actually reduce the spending of subsidy. I said, look, I cannot hold petrol at 200 now. I cannot hold it if it is going to 1,200. You know why? Because another state of Hormuz day will come again. That might take petroleum price to 2K, to 2,000, to 3,000. So the government state idly by when other government will see effort that other governments have done in such emergencies.
Well, it seems like that's the plan. Dr. Majid, we need to get to the listeners and take their thoughts on it. So,
before the visitors come in,
yeah.
I said, I agree, I concede to them their plan. My worry is that those that want to take off of them do not have a clear-cut contrary plan to this that they have. And we need to begin to tell them to develop that plan now. Going to the election, we can choose between you and these people.
But they can only develop such a plan if they believe in it. If the goal was to do what he did what Tinubu did in the first place, and that's probably one of the reasons why we're not seeing anything contrary coming up at this point. Let's go on.
More news and information coming up. We'll be back in a moment.